3rd Battalion, 45th Infantry will demonstrate new methods developed by the 23rd Brigade Philippine Scouts by which unfordable streams can be crossed without recourse to extraneous material and with a minimum loss of time. The operation takes place over the Pasig River near Manila. On the near bank, the battalion prepares its equipment for floating operations. Pack loads, which include machine guns, rations, and kitchen equipment, are unloaded. Pollens are spread on the ground and the loads from pack animals wrapped therein. Note the tent poles placed lengthwise along the pollen. These serve to give rigidity to the load after the pollen has been wrapped about it. The contents of an escort wagon are wrapped and secured in the same manner. This load comprises most of the rations and the baggage of a rifle company. Preparation of the various loads is carried on simultaneously. 2 shelter tent halves are folded into a square and used to float the equipment of 2 soldiers, including clothing, rifles, and ammunition. The completed float is held in shape by the crossed rifles to which the corners of the shelter tent halves are tied. An escort wagon is prepared for floating by placing its own canvas cover under and around the wagon bed. The bed is then replaced and fastened to the running gear. After the initial command, prepare to cross river, it usually requires from 15 to 20 minutes to prepare an entire battalion to cross a stream without the aid of boats, rafts, or any other equipment than that which is normal to its combat operation. In 7 minutes, the advance guard company is prepared to swim its men and animals and float its equipment across the stream. The men move out to their assigned positions on the riverbank, from which they will start across. Each of the loads containing the individual equipment is propelled by the 2 men to whom the equipment pertains. While one man pushes, the other pulls the load by a tent rope. A poor swimmer can support himself by hanging on to the edge of the float. Scouts precede the company across the river. It is their duty to protect the bulk of the unit as it crosses and emerges on the far bank. These scouts number about 1/8 of the company's strength. The advance company has arrived on the far side. All men are in dry clothing and have dry equipment. Their mission is to cover the crossing of the remainder of the battalion. Meanwhile, the pack loads of the machine gun company are unloaded on the near bank and prepared for movement across the river. It requires 20 minutes to prepare this company. The pack saddle is placed on a piece of canvas 6 feet square with the packs of the personnel who operate the gun. After the gun and tripod have been packed in and the canvas has been secured about its load, the float and its contents are launched. Machine gun ammunition may be packed for floating in a similar manner. Gun loads and ammunition loads are ferried across simultaneously. These 2 loads comprise a complete machine gun unit. Each load is propelled by 2 men, while one hangs on to balance it. The long piece of bamboo is simply a safety precaution to prevent losing the load should it sink. It requires from 15 to 18 loads to transport the entire equipment of the machine gun company. Should occasion demand, the machine gun can be floated across while in action. A cargo load, the contents of an escort wagon. Prepared on the bank, it is carried down to the water's edge and launched. The float with its load weighs 1,000 pounds and is capable of supporting from 4 to 8 men in addition to the load itself. Note again the bamboo safety float. The cargo float is propelled by from 4 to 6 men. In pushing the float, it should be kept diagonal to the current of the stream. Thus, the current assists in propelling the float to the other side. The confidence displayed by this company commander is reassuring. Cigar and all, he is sure of reaching the far bank as dry as when he left this side. If he has his way, he'll make it. The escort wagons are floated across on their own canvas covers. The wheels act as ballast. In the same manner, an ammunition cart is adapted to the situation. The pack and draft animals are moved across in herd. A few soldiers go with the herd to guide the ones which need whipping into line. These animals have been taught individually to swim and to herd toward a bell which is being rung on the far side of the stream. After about 15 hours of careful training, they herd without difficulty and cross safely to the other side. The animals herd and swim equally well in either direction. While they are crossing back over the river, it is well to recapitulate and note that but 4 distinct types of floats are required for the ferrying operation. First, the 2-man rifle float, which carries the clothing and equipment of 2 soldiers. Using 2 shelter halves in which the equipment is placed, the float is made rigid by means of the crossed rifles with bayonets fixed and is completed by binding the 4 corners with shelter tent ropes. Second, the 2-man machine gun float, which carries a pack saddle, the equipment and clothing of 2 soldiers, and 1 machine gun or 8 boxes of ammunition. By means of a 1/2-inch rope, all sides of a 6x6 manta are drawn up about the load until the bundle is practically rigid. Third, the cargo float, which may consist of the contents of a wagon or the kitchen and ration loads of the 3 company pack mules. The sketch shows the load of a ration and baggage wagon ready for wrapping in a pollen 18 by 39 feet and the completed load prepared for floating. New canvas is not essential to effective use of issue tentage. Patched holes or rips hastily sewed or wired up make the canvas watertight for several hours. Fourth and last, the escort wagon float, with its own canvas cover placed under the body and drawn up well about the sideboards. Propelled by 6 men, the wagon is readily floated across the stream.